Okay, thank you. I would like to welcome everyone to today's hearings. The Committee of Adjustment is appointed by Council to consider applications for consents and minor variances to the zoning bylaw. Please be advised that any applicant or agent that is in attendance in person at today's hearing for a specific application may leave the hearing once their application has been considered by the committee. Any applicant, agent, or member of the public wishing to address the committee for a specific application is reminded that presentations are limited to 10 minutes per person. Could I have a motion to adopt today's agenda? And I have Strength and Watson for that. And would the Secretary Treasurer please read the resolution to adopt the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the agenda of the Gravenhurst Committee of Adjustment meeting dated June 20th, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you, and we'll call for the vote on that item. And that carries. Thank you. Do any committee members have any comments with regard to the minutes to be adopted? And if not, could I have a motion to adopt the minutes for May 16th, 2025? Oh, were they not? Oh, they weren't.
They're not listed on the, if you go to the other website, they weren't there. If you go to the agenda website on top,
Yes.
there's no minutes, and they weren't available to us.
Okay. Okay, let's, just one moment, please.
Yep.
Okay, then, yes.
And then I'll read it as a deferral.
Okay, so we'll defer the minutes. Do we want a motion to that effect, to defer, or? Let's do that. Okay, Ungerman and Sims.
And then I can read that as well. So maybe just don't put it up on the screen and I'll read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Gravenhurst Committee of Adjustment meeting dated May 16th, 2025 be deferred until the next meeting in July. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to read this resolution again. Be it resolved that the approval of the minutes of the Gravenhurst Committee of Adjustment meeting dated May 16th, 2025 be deferred until the next meeting, which will be in July. Thank you.
We'll call for the vote on that item. Okay, and that carries, so we'll be voting on 2 minutes next time. Okay, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, because in fact, I didn't notice it myself. Okay, moving on. Do any committee members have a pecuniary interest in the applications being heard today? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on again. And under the item requests for adjournment or deferral in accordance with Section 11 of the Committee of Adjustment Procedural Bylaw, I'll now ask if the Secretary Treasurer has received any requests for adjournment, deferral, or withdrawal from the applicant or agent for any application on today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received a request for deferral, and if the committee coordinator could put the motion up on the screen, then I will read the resolution. Be it resolved that minor variance application A11-2025-GR for Decuzzi be deferred in order to allow the applicant to confirm a suitable location for a septic system that will satisfy Ontario Building Code requirements and revise their plans if needed. Committee agrees to the deferral of the public hearing for Decuzzi A11-2025-GR as they are satisfied that there is reasonable cause and set a new hearing date of July 18th, 2025.
Thank you. Any discussion on that, committee? No? And I just want to confirm there's no one in the audience expecting a public meeting on that item today? Okay. I'll call for the vote.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I will need a mover.
A mover and a
seconder,
seconder, so
please.
moved by
Thank you.
Member Ungerman and Member Watson. Thank you, and we'll call for the vote on that item. Thank you very much. That carries. The Committee of Adjustment will today consider one new consent application, and now, as a result of that last resolution, two minor variance applications under public hearings. The Planning Act requires that a public hearing be held before the Committee of Adjustment decides whether or not to approve a consent or a minor variance. The public hearing serves two purposes. First, to present to the Committee of Adjustment and the public the details and background to the application, and second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before a decision is made. I will briefly summarize the procedure to be used for the hearing. The Secretary-Treasurer, Susan Fleming, will advise as to when, how, and to whom notice of the public hearing was circulated. The planners, Angela Jakatis, Andrew Clark, or our student planner, Matthew Britton White, will provide any other information that is relevant to the application and summarize any correspondence on file. From there, the applicant will be provided the opportunity to make a presentation, followed by questions or presentations from the public, either in favor of or against the proposal, and committee members will then have the opportunity to question the applicant, the Secretary-Treasurer, the planners, or anyone giving presentations. The proposed consent or variance will then be considered by the committee. If anyone from the public would like to receive a copy of the decision made on any application, please provide your name and full mailing address on one of the forms provided on the table at the back of the room. Would the Secretary-Treasurer please advise how, when, and to whom notices of the public hearings were circulated?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice of the public hearings concerning the proposed applications were sent by first-class mail to the respective owners and assessed persons within 60 meters of the properties, subject to the proposed consent or minor variance applications, and emailed to applicable agencies. Included with each notice was a summary of the application, a site sketch, and a key map showing the location of the property. The circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13. Thank you.
Thank you. It is important to note that should committee approve any application, there is a 20-day appeal period during which time today's decision may be appealed. During this appeal period, no building permit may be issued or other work commenced. Also, in the event there is an appeal, and in order to be kept advised of a possible Ontario Land Tribunal hearing, members of the public must request to be sent a copy of committee's decision on the application. Third-party appeals are no longer accepted. Only the applicant, the municipality, and certain public bodies will be able to appeal a minor variance or consent decision. We'll now move on for the application for consent. And I now declare this to be a public hearing for applications B14 through 16, 2025 GR for Cordner, Farrell, and Mergalis. I will now ask the senior planner, Angela Jakatis, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just wait for the PowerPoint to come up. Thank you. The properties involved in these applications are located in the southwestern area of the municipality and front onto the Severn River. Access to the property is from Riverside Trail, which is a private road that comes off of another private road from South Morrison Lake Road. The properties are designated waterfront area in the official plan. The property is zoned residential waterfront, RW6, subject to a special provision which prevents a boathouse on these properties. And there is also an environmental protection, EP zone, associated with the large beaver pond in the middle of the properties shown here. And the properties are located within a residential waterfront area of larger lots that contain dwellings, mostly used seasonally, as well as accessory structures, including docks. So there's 3 different consent applications that are part of this proposal. The first consent application is for the Cordner property on the left, with a proposal to divide the property and create one new lot, the severed and retained lots as shown here. And the next two consent applications are for right-of-way across the two neighboring properties at the right, represented by the yellow coloring. It's a bit faded, but you can see it there. And those right-of-way applications do utilize an existing driveway. Comments of no objection were received from the town's chief building official, infrastructure technologist, manager of revenue, the deputy treasurer, and the town's emergency and fire services. The District of Muskoka stated they have no objection to these consent applications. District do have concerns with the proposed zoning to permit a reduced dwelling setback, but that is completely independent of the consent applications being considered today. That will be a council decision and has no impact on this consent process. And just, I would note that 3 letters of support were received from neighboring property owners for the proposal. So just going through the pictures, starting on the existing dock, looking west along the Severn River in front of the retained lot. Beyond the retained lot is a wetland area, and it's hard to see, but in the mid-right of the photo, there is a shoreline deck. So that becomes apparent in this photo. Again, looking at the retained lot, you can just see the sleeping cabins, which are to be removed on the retained lot, shown there. And you can also see that the terrain starting to slope up. And there are constraints on the severed lot. This photo represents an extreme depiction of the slopes on the property. But for that reason, the deputy chief building official did attend the site with me and did confirm that there appears to be suitable building and septic areas on the property. So then, just going back down to the shoreline and looking east towards the proposed severed lot, the slopes here are evident in the path leading down to the water. I would just note that each of the proposed lots does exceed the minimum lot frontage and area requirements required by the zoning bylaw for new lot creation. And when we look down to the shoreline area, I would just point out the shoreline vegetation, which is also evident in this property. This is the yurt that was on the property, but it did collapse last winter due to snow load. And I would point out again the vegetation that's on these properties. There's also a shed on the severed lot. And then this is the pond that's in the middle of these properties. And just showing the slopes that lead back up from that pond. So again, just emphasizing the property slopes up from the river to a plateau and then back down to the pond. Just the final photo. So it's shown the existing right-of-way that, again, the existing driveway that crosses the two neighboring properties and is part of the applications here today for legal access, legal right-of-way. So in conclusions, planning staff would recommend that committee approve the consent application for the creation of one new lot with standard conditions regarding a deed, survey, and parkland dedication, as well as confirmation of satisfactory sewage system envelopes. And then separately, committee would also recommend that, staff would also recommend that committee approve the consent application for the right-of-ways with the standard conditions regarding a deed and survey, and that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Jacatis. At this time, I'll ask for comments from the agent, Savas Veratis, who has pre-registered to address the committee electronically.
I think you're, yeah, because you're not in open.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. I have to do that. There we are. Good morning, Savas.
Good morning, committee. My name is Savas Veratis of Plan Muskoka. I'm here as agent to the applicants on this matter. I don't have a lot of information to add. I think Ms. Chikatis has described the proposal accurately, and I agree with staff's recommendation. I think the two things that going into this one that we wanted to address was the environmental side of things. As you know, the pond in the middle provides a natural feature that needs to be protected, and through an EIS prepared by the applicants, that will be implemented by way of a further zoning bylaw. There is appropriate buffers and protection measures that are being recommended that will be implemented through this proposal. And I think as Ms. Chikatis has outlined in her presentation, the topography of the property can be steep at times, and there just had to be confirmation that there was an appropriate building envelope on the proposed lot to support the development of a new dwelling or any new construction on that property, which I think has happened now. So I think with those two matters dealt with, this approval seems a little bit more straightforward, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that committee may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and we'll call on you if we have further questions. Thank you. And does the applicant have a presentation they wish to make? If they are present in person? Yes? No presentation to make? Okay, thank you. And are there any questions or comments from members of the public? I do see a couple members of the public. But I guess not for this application. Thank you. Okay, committee, the staff's recommendation is to approve consent application B14 2024 GR for the Cordner for the creation of one new lot. And so we're going to deal with these separately, I guess. Does committee have a motion to approve that lot creation? Unkerman and Strength? And I will now ask Susan Fleming to read the resolution, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that having had regard to the matters prescribed under Section 5312 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13, that consent be granted for application number B14 2024 GR for Cordner, conditional on the proper legal registration and mapping documents and fees be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. Cash in lieu of parkland dedication be paid to the town of Gravenhurst in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the vacant lot in accordance with the town of Gravenhurst dedication of parkland bylaw 9749. And the final condition, final approval be subject to the town of Gravenhurst confirming that the severed and retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal and that any problems identified by the town with any existing sewage systems be corrected to the satisfaction of the town of Gravenhurst. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any discussion, questions, comments? So, Mr. Sims, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could pose a couple of questions just for my clarification. One's very minor, but that we're dealing with, they both deal with rights of way. And it's interesting that on the site, one of them, at the north end, is a site of an easement, and we weren't discussing that. So I was just curious how that differed from the right of way to the south end of the property, where we are now being asked to approve. And I didn't realize that we normally had to approve rights of way. I thought that was just a matter dealt with between property owners. So, thank you.
Ms. Chikatis, go ahead.
Thank you. The applicant's agent may have something to add here as well, but I can clarify that the easement or right-of-way shown at the top of the property is an existing legal right-of-way. So in the application, it still gets color-coded as yellow, but it's an existing legal right-of-way. What the committee's being asked to do today is to approve the approved legal access across the neighboring property to access the Cordner property at the westernmost property. And I guess I would note, just as a point of interest, legal right-of-ways that are in place forever do need to be approved by the approval authority, being the Committee of Adjustment. There are alternatives that some property owners may use. One in the Planning Act, it states 21 years less a day. So you could enter into an agreement with your neighbor to have access across their property for 21 years less a day. And then that agreement would need to be renewed. The legal access that's approved by this committee is forever. So it's in perpetuity, and it applies to subsequent landowners.
Thank you for that. Presumably that right-of-way at the top end of the property, it appears to service the next door property as well. Is that what I'm seeing?
So I might ask Mr. Veratis to join to just clarify this, but I believe that the subject property already has a legal right-of-way. It services a number of properties.
Right, okay.
Not just
one.
Not just one. So it services a number of properties, and including this one, and Mr. Veratis can maybe just verify
I'll
that.
just bring Mr. Veratis back in, if you just want to comment on that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct. That easement at the top is part of a large right of way that accesses like many of the waterfront properties in the area. It's granted through a road association that everybody is a member of who purchases property onto that roadway. So that it's an existing easement, has nothing to do with the application here today, but it is shown, as Angela has said, in yellow, just to demonstrate that there's an existing easement across the top of the property.
Okay. But it looks to me, again, probably given that large pond in the middle, that it's not really used by the properties in question today. I wouldn't.
That's correct. You'd have to have a.
They drive through the pond, so.
That's right. That's right.
So that's hence, so the next motion will be looking at the rights of way across the other properties, but is that, you have something further, Mr. Caddis?
Perhaps I could just ask for the map to be put up, the severance sketch. So I think it does actually service the, I believe that, sorry. So you can see how the road comes down here, and yeah, I'm not sure if it's where the actual traveled road is, but there is, like, again, this right-of-way services a number of properties that, as Mr. Veratis noted, it's part of the road association.
So there's probably several rights of way up on the top end, but we're just considering the ones on the bottom, but that's in the next, that'll be in the next resolution. So all we're looking at in this resolution is the creation of the one new lot. Okay, anything further? Mr. Ungerman?
I appreciate that it's two applications in a sense, but I don't know that we would create a severed lot, which would be, by severing the middle lot, we're leaving the retained lot without granting the right-of-way. Would there be access to the retained lot? It's just through the north end of it?
Go ahead, Mr. Caddis.
Thank you. And thanks for that question. The B14, the resolution that's been read, it actually includes a right-of-way, that right-of-way across the severed in favor of the retained.
So there,
I'm not sure I understand that. If I can just sort of carry on this conversation, if we look at the lot on the left, that's the retained lot, which
Yes.
is going to be a result of our consent create the severed lot. How does the owner of the retained lot get to what I see as Riverside Trail? Does it retain the right to go over the lot on the right?
So part of the resolution that was read, and we can pull it up again, it's, if you can't quite see it, but it says, as a consent certificate be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, including all rights of ways, and that will include that piece across the severed in favor of the retained. It will be listed as a right-of-way to the retained as part of the approval that you're granting.
And how does it get from that point over to Riverside Trail?
In the next resolution.
How does the owner of the retained lot get over, I can see it has an easement already over what will become the severed lot. And how does it keep going to get over to Riverside Trail?
In the next resolution that you're going to consider.
So don't we need to do them together in a sense? Because if we create the severed lot and we don't grant the second part, are we landlocking the owner of the retained lot?
The reason they were separated is because the right-of-ways can be finalized without the lot creation being finalized. So to your point, we could add another condition that states, that requires the right-of-ways to be, the right-of-way applications to be finalized prior to the lot creation being finalized.
On top of that, though, we should point out, they do have technically access over the Severn
Yeah.
River, correct?
They do have it if we look at the lower right-of-way, bringing them out to Riverside Trail. It just means they may or may not have a continuing right to go across the existing right-of-way to get to Riverside Trail. But it would seem to me that that would make more sense just to continue it as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that point, and we can add that,
Okay.
we can add that condition in.
I see Mr. Veratis would like to chime in on this, so go ahead, Mr. Veratis. Oh, he came out. And he's back. One moment, please. There we go. There you go.
Sorry about that. Just to Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify that the easement across the top would relate to the entire property today. So that's the severed and retained lot together. So the subject lands has access all the way across the top along Riverside Trail down to the portion where the new rights-of-ways are being proposed across the neighboring properties to branch off to get down to the southern part. So in virtue, the entire property currently has access over Riverside Trail. By dividing it, both properties continue to have access over Riverside Trail. That's why we're only dealing with the southern half with this application, with the two property that the right-of-way is crossing and the continuance of the right-of-way across to the retained land. So there really would be no, broken chain here of access across the right-of-way for the retained lands. It should have access legally all the way through.
Talking about the existing right-of-way at the top.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
so can I just clarify that the easement granted by LT 220619, or it's hard to read the numbers, but it continues all the way, that's an existing easement, and it continues all the way to Riverside Trail, in spite of the fact that on the map it wasn't yellowed. Is that correct?
Yes, and if Mr. Veratis could answer that for us.
See, there's only two
'Cause
arrows.
it does appear to also go south to the corner where the new right-of-way is shown on there. So, Mr. Veratis, can you comment on that?
Yeah, to you, Mr. Chair, yeah, that is correct. So that existing easement applies to the entire of the property, so both the severed and the retained lot. And it wasn't shown in yellow because it wasn't part of the original subject lands. subject lands were the corner lands that we're dealing with the consent with. So it wasn't shown in yellow because it was outside of those lands. But you're right, it should have been shown in yellow just to demonstrate that there's a right of way across all those properties to get down the Riverside Trail.
Okay. Any further comments, Mr. Caddis?
Perhaps we could put up just the condition, an additional condition that we were talking about on the screen. So simply by adding that consent applications B15 and 16, 2024 GR be finalized, then that ensures that the right-of-way is there prior to the lot creation, if that's satisfactory, if committee wishes.
Does that make sense then? So that this consent will not exist unless we pass the next rights of way resolution. Got it? Okay. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none. Okay, we'll call for the vote as with that extra condition in there. Oh, Savas didn't vote, but he doesn't get a vote, so that's okay. That's okay. It looks like it carried anyway, regardless. Thank you. Okay, and we'll move on to discuss the next item, which is those rights of way. So the staff's recommendation is to approve the consent applications B15 and 16, 2024 GR for Farrell and Mergalis for right-of-way approval. And could I have a motion? Could I have a motion to approve that? Sims and Ungerman, thank you. And I'll ask Susan Fleming to read that resolution, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that having had regard to the matters prescribed under Section 5312 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13, that consent be granted for application number B1516 2024 GR for Farrell and Margalis, conditional on a consent certificate be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, including all rights of ways, along with a registered paper copy of the reference plan, and that digital drawing files of the reference plan PDF version shall be provided to the town. Thank you.
Okay, committee, any further discussion? I think we've discussed this already. Okay, and seeing none, then I'll ask for the vote on that item. I'm sorry? Oh, okay.
Oh, we need 2 votes.
Yes, go ahead and vote.
People have voted.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
right.
I have to. Okay,
He's going to be there every time.
who's missing? Mr. Watson. That's okay. It's still carried. And you voted in favor of that too, Mr. Watson. Okay. Just a glitch in the,
No, he was up there, it was just us that didn't vote.
oh,
It's just wrong on the spreadsheet.
I thought there's only 5. Oh, was he? But it showed only 5 voting.
There's only 5.
But I was saying, yes, 5 plus Mr. Radis makes 6. Thank you. All good. Okay, sorry for the technical issue there. So I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. We'll now deal with the applications for minor variance. I now declare this to be a public hearing for minor variance application A09-2025 GR for Watanabe. I will now ask the senior planner, Angela Giacattis, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This property is located in the west central area of the municipality and fronts onto Loon Lake. The property is accessed via Red Wing Drive across land owned by the Ministry of Natural Resources, which is directly adjacent to the property. This property is designated waterfront area in the official plan and is zoned residential waterfront RW6D in the zoning bylaw. You can see that there are a variety of lot sizes along this shoreline. The property is located in a residential waterfront area with a mix of older and newer dwellings and a variety of sizes and setbacks. The proposal is to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling farther back from the water that includes a screen porch. As a result, the proposed dwelling width will increase to a maximum of 21.4 meters at a setback of 15 meters from the water, representing a requested variance of 5.9 meters. And the proposed setback from the eastern side lot line is 4.5 meters, as shown by the green arrow, where a setback of 6 meters is required, representing a variance of 1.5 meters. Comments of no objection were received from the town's chief building official, deputy treasurer, and fire and emergency services department. So starting near the parking area, which is located at the midpoint of the property, which is quite deep, this photo shows the path leading down the property towards the shoreline, and it also shows the approximate location of the proposed new driveway. And proceeding down the path to the water, you can see the existing dwelling, which demolition permit has been issued. The orange stake depicts the approximate location of the back corner of the proposed new dwelling, which results in the additional dwelling width. You can also hopefully see there's orange paint on the ground depicting the proposed new location of the dwelling. And I would just take the opportunity in this photo to indicate when looking towards the lake, you can see the mature vegetation in this area of, in front of the proposed dwelling. So then looking behind the existing dwelling, again, you can see there's an orange stake and paint depicting the approximate location of the rear back wall. And I don't think the photos do it justice, but there's a very steep rock cliff that definitely influences and restricts the location of any construction on this property. And this will, you'll also be able to see this in subsequent photos. So then moving around to the front of the existing dwelling that's to be removed and standing on the deck, you can see the neighbor's dwelling, the gray building. You can just barely see the survey stake confirming the boundary between the two properties. It'll become more apparent in another photo. And there's the orange paint showing the location of the proposed new dwelling. And I'd also point out in this photo, at the right of the photo, there is a rock outcropping, and that forms a visual and physical barrier between the lake and the part of the proposed new dwelling. So then moving down to the dock, you can again see the existing dwelling, the steep rock cliff located behind it. It's not really apparent in this photo, and approximately depicts the proposed additional width, and would just note that the proposed new dwelling is to be located farther back than this building. As you can see, the dwelling is located parallel to the shoreline, so the angle of the lot lines results in the rear of the dwelling being closer to the side lot line. And again, the proposed building represented by the orange stakes and paint, and again, being farther back than what's existing, you can limit it in options due to the steep rock face that's behind it. And turning and looking towards the neighbor to the east, again, their dwelling, the survey stake, and the orange stake representing the proposed new dwelling location. And it's only the rear corner, not this corner that's shown by the orange stake, that will not meet the 6-meter setback. This photo is looking west, and really I just included this to again, confirm some of the constraints on the property. The large boulder outcrop, why the building can't be pushed in that direction on the property. The final photo is standing at the top of the slope in the approximate location of the proposed septic system. There is an existing shed here as well. Again, this is, the parking area isn't visible in this picture, but it's up at the top of the slope. And there's also a hydro line to the right, which isn't visible, which does limit the potential location of structures, including the septic system as well. Staff are satisfied this proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as detailed in the written staff report and would recommend that the application be approved by committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, I'll ask for comments from the agent, Clinton Archer, who has pre-registered to address the committee electronically. Mr. Archer. You'll need to turn on your microphone and your video, Mr. Archer, and press the talk icon. There we go. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Clinton Archer of Archer Design and Consulting. I'm the authorized representative for the property owners of 26 Red Wing Drive. I just want to start by thanking the committee members, town staff, and anyone else who was involved or is involved in this application. Your time and efforts are appreciated. We are requesting 2 variances, as Angela described. The allowable dwelling width and the minimum allowable eastern side yard setback. I'm going to share some drawings of a site plan. This one is going to be of the existing site plan. Not sure if you can see that.
We don't see that, Mr. Archer. Did you, there, it was coming? There we go. Okay, now we're.
All right, perfect. So the red box here basically outlines the existing cottage that's there now. The purple outline indicates the existing uncovered decks and stairs that are on the property right now. These dimensions here, the 12.1 is the setback from the eastern lot line to the existing corner of the cottage, and the other one is from the lot line to there's a little tiny uncovered wood deck, but that is the closest deck to this lot line. And then I've also included some setbacks here from the water to the existing cottage corner and also to the existing uncovered wood deck. Just to put things in perspective. As you can see, the eastern side yard setback is substantial, but the setbacks to the water's edge are, for both the cottage and uncovered wood deck, are quite minimal. And then I will show what we are proposing. So basically this orange line right here shows what I just showed you in the previous site plan. That's all the existing cottage and deck. This red line right here outlines our proposed cottage. The purple outline is the proposed uncovered wood deck that we are proposing. As you can see, the cottage we are proposing and the deck we're proposing are substantially farther back from the water than the existing cottage. But again, as Angela pointed out, there is a very large rock face behind the cottage that prevents us from moving this farther from the water. And I believe that's more or less what is creating our variances for the side yard and the width, just because we're very limited. Couple things to note about the side yard. So this 4.43 is one of our variances that we're asking. And Angela also pointed out that it is just in this back corner that we're asking for that. But as you can see, as you get closer to the water, the side yard increases. And actually at this point right here, we are over the minimum allowable side yard. So I just want to make a note of that. One other thing that I want to note, I feel is important, is we are only proposing one very, very small window for the master ensuite on this wall, which is maximizing privacy towards the neighbors to the east. As for the setbacks from the water's edge, these two basically right here, as you can see, they're increasing pretty substantially, as I noted before, thus improving the setbacks from the water, which I feel is important to note. But again, that rock cliff behind the cottage is preventing us from moving any further. Yeah, this property is very challenging, just due to a lot of solid rock, and we're trying to obviously minimize blasting. The other thing I want to note is the property owners made an effort to reach out to the neighbors to the east via email on May 3rd, 2025. In this email, it was mentioned that a cottage rebuild would be proposed and that the proposed cottage would be closer to their property. General design items were also mentioned. And the demolition and construction start times were described as aiming for fall 2025, so this fall, obviously pending town approvals. And then a response was received from the neighbors, a friendly response on May 31st, with no mention of opposition towards our proposal. I believe through demonstrating efforts in incorporating larger front yard setbacks, being under the allowable building height and lot coverage, working with substantially rocky and hilly terrain, willing to advise and work with the neighbors, and keeping the bulk of the existing vegetation in place, we believe that what we're asking for is minor in nature. And again, I'd just like to thank everyone for your consideration, and I'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Archer. And if we do have any questions, we will come back to you. And is the applicant present, and do they wish to make any presentation or comments? No? Okay, are there any questions or comments from members of the public? Seeing none. And committee, the staff's recommendation in this case is to approve this minor variance, and is that the will of the committee to bring that motion forward? So we'll do that. Mr. Watson, seconded by Mr. Sims. And I will now ask Susan Fleming to read that resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that application number A0925GR for Watanabe be approved and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared.
Okay, committee, any questions, comments? I think it's been covered fairly thoroughly myself. Mr. Sims?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I just have a few comments and maybe one question. But this is a challenging terrain, and so I'm actually very much in favor, certainly of the upgrade, but they're making concessions to make that work. A couple of, I guess one of the questions, Mr. Clint, Mr. Archer did respond, or did provide some insight. I was curious about the response from the neighbors, and what I understood him, Clinton, to say was that there was no opposition, which doesn't exactly translate through to support, but that's okay. I do think communicating with the neighbors in the first place was the right thing to do. The site on the site plan, there's a proposed septic system. And I'm just curious if there is an existing septic system. Because this could be like a major improvement of the property if this is the first time a septic system is being installed.
Do we have? Mr. Archer, are you able to comment on the existing septic?
Yes, thank you for the question.
I think you have to come back in for us, Mr. Archer. There we go.
Sorry. Thank you for the question. The existing septic is directly to the east of the existing cottage, which basically means that it does not comply with the front yard setback or the requirement for the water setback. And I'm not even sure if it meets the current requirement for the side yard setback as well. So we definitely will be improving that. And I've actually met with a town representative. It was actually two gentlemen, septic inspectors. I met them on site and I walked them around the location that you see on this drawing here, and they did not see any issues.
Okay, thank you. Does that satisfy you, Mr. Sims?
Because to the east, there's not much space there.
No, and not only that, yes, and I think the building code is something like 15 meters, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry?
3 meters.
From the lake?
Oh.
I think it's,
from the side yards.
yeah, through, from the side yard, but I think that, yeah. So anyway, it looks to me to be, yes, a great improvement in terms of the septic. Okay. Any further questions, comments, committee? So I will, I guess I should read the script there, because we always ask for the recommendations of staff as a result of these proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff would recommend that committee approve the application.
Okay, thank you. So I will call for the vote on this item. And that carries. Thank you. And I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. Oof. Can't turn my page. And we will be skipping ahead because of the Jacuzzi deferral. On to West, thank you. I now declare this to be a public hearing for minor variance application A12-2025 GR for West. I'll now ask the student planner, Matthew Britton White, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property, municipally known as 1051 Baseline Road, is in the southern area of the town of Gravenhurst. The property is within the rural area designation in the official plan and zone residential rural, RR5. The property is currently accessed from a portion of Baseline Road that is municipally maintained year-round. The property is in the process of being developed with a detached dwelling in the southern area of the property and still contains much of the dense mature vegetation outside of the building envelope as seen on the air photo. The property is generally level, but is at an elevated grade on the west side behind the building where the variance is being requested. The surrounding lands generally consist of rural residential properties that are well vegetated, along with a mix of other uses such as a trailer park and an aggregate pit to the east, and the CN Railway and Severn Bridge settlement area to the south of the property. An application has been submitted to recognize the location of the existing dwelling to permit a rear lot line setback of 17.7 meters, where 30 meters is required, representing a variance of 12.3 meters. Committee may recall previous consent applications B01, 02, and 03, 2025, which were conditionally approved in the February meeting to create 3 new lots on the subject property. One of the conditions was that the lots are brought into conformity with the zoning bylaw. This application applies to the first proposed severed lot B01, 2025, which was in the process of being developed with the dwelling. When the consent application was submitted, the dwelling was intended to meet all applicable zoning requirements. on the proposed lot, including a rear 30-meter setback. However, it was later confirmed by a survey that the dwelling location had changed and would not meet the required setback from the newly created rear lot line as was originally contemplated, requiring this relief to be granted prior to lot creation. Comments of no objection were received from the chief building official, deputy treasurer, and deputy fire chief. A comment from the neighbor that shares the rear lot line was received, suggesting that the owner address the setback through a lot addition instead of a variance. This minor variance application is intended to recognize the reduced setback as proposed. The lot addition proposal would require a separate consent application which has not been received, as well as coordination between the two separate property owners. This comment was circulated to the applicant and committee. This first picture looks west towards the existing dwelling in construction at the entrance off Baseline Road. Moving further west to the rear of the property, you can see the west end of the attached garage, which currently encroaches into the required rear lot line. This is where the variance is being requested. You can also see that there's a jump in elevation and dense vegetation above and the rear lot line, visually buffering it from the neighboring properties. Here is another angle of the rear yard. You can see that the variance is only reflected along the attached garage, which is just a small portion of the overall width of the building. And this photo looks south around the corner from the attached garage, further showing that most of the existing dwelling complies with the required rear yard setback, and it's just that garage portion which the variance is being requested for. And here's the other side of the dwelling where you can see the enhanced front yard setback with vegetation allowing the building to have limited visual impact from the road. And finally, this is the view of the dwelling from the road. So as outlined in the staff report, staff are satisfied that this application meets the 4 required tests for a minor variance and recommend that the application be approved, subject to the recommended conditions that the applicable consent applications for the subject property B01 2025 GR is finalized, and the provided relief shall only apply to the parcel of land associated with the consent application B01 2025. These conditions were added to ensure that this relief only applies to this lot configuration because the consent agreement hasn't been finalized yet. And this concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Do the applicant or agent have a presentation they wish to make? Mr. McCann, go ahead. You have to. Now you can go ahead.
Okay. Rick McCann, 1038 Cowbell Lane, Severn Bridge, P0E1 Norman 0. Mr. Chairman, I'm the agent for the West. This is an unfortunate situation where they changed the location of the building, not realizing until the survey was completed that put them too close to the rear lot line. I've talked to the neighbors, both neighbors that own property abutting on the rear lot line. In fact, Brendan's here today. I don't think there was there wasn't an objection when I talked with them anyway, but we'll see today. Brendan did suggest in his letter that that he might be interested in severing a piece of land at the back, which we wouldn't need the variance, but my client has not indicated at this point anyway that he's interested in purchasing more land, so I'd like to proceed with the variance. Thank you.
And if we have any other questions for you, we'll bring you back, Mr. McCann. And questions or comments from members of the public on this, please come forward and give us your name and mailing address and your comments.
My name is Brandon Roberts. I actually have the house at 1091 Art Crisp Road.
Excuse me, Mr. Roberts, could you please provide your mailing address? Thank you.
Yes, 1091 Art Crisp Road. That is the property that butts up to the back of Mike West and Kayla West property. Essentially, I have no concerns with the location of their house. I just have more concerns with the due diligence that goes along with all of this. I feel that this could have been avoided via the footing inspection a long time ago. I'm in building construction myself, so I kind of know a bit about all of this. You know, this is process here is a learning curve for sure for me, but I'm not concerned with the location of the house. The concern that I have is that I have come to this township before in regards to trying to sever property, just to get ahead in life a little bit more. It's very difficult. You guys are very aware, look at the resources we have to put together just to do such a thing. I have actually exchanged emails with Mr. Clark here in the past about this, and it just seemed a bit overwhelming for me to try to attack by myself. So now I'm kind of here in regards to reaching out to you guys to make sure this could potentially happen for me in the future. I quickly sent an email to Mr. Clark the other day in regards to say, hey, cool, let's sever off the chunk and make it where it fits within his needs. Does it make any sense? Probably not, because there's an easement that runs right through that, and why would he want to if he doesn't need to? It sounds like he doesn't want the land because he's purchased the 18 acres, and I guess now, to my understanding, is divided into 3 more properties, or 2 more, or however many. So my next best solution would be to sever the original thing that I had talked to about with Mr. Clark there, and the minor variances that I guess that would come along with that would be we fall into deer wintering zones, I fall into a railroad condition with the CNR. I have an aggregate pit, but I also now have a nice, beautiful home that falls on a trail that I used to walk daily. I don't mind that. I think it's great. I have nothing against the family that's building that home. I think they're great people. He runs a very successful business in the town, and I think that's awesome. He's got many employees that he's keeping employed. Great. I just am here today to speak on behalf of myself in regards to making these processes a little bit more simple. I don't really know what else I can say at this point. If you guys have questions, feel free.
Thank you. I mean, I'll just comment briefly. I think that, you know, we are subject to a lot of the conditions imposed by the province on how we deal with items that come before this committee, and I think staff obviously can speak even better to that than I can. And in many cases, you know, the process does seem a little daunting for the average person, I think. But the fact that we do, you know, this committee meets monthly to address these issues on an ongoing basis. And, you know, I think that we're always welcome to suggestions for improvement. But in general, I think that our processes, from my point of view, work fairly well. And again, there are a lot of conditions sometimes, you know, when you involve things like the railway, which is out of our control, and conditions that they may impose, things like that. And of course, natural features, wetlands, those types of things are all complicating factors. So that's why we tend to look at, you know, each application has to be looked at as a unique application, because there's conditions for each one. I think, and each of us on this committee would say that we see things that we've never seen before, and I've been doing this for many years now on this committee, and every time there's surprises based on individual, you know, complications on an individual lot. So I do understand your concerns, but if you know, as I say, if there's suggestions, the pre-consultation process that the town has put in place for these applications is, it goes a long way to help you before you put your application in, to meet with staff, and they'll give you, you know, their opinion on the issues that you may run into, so. In this case, again, and then as staff have pointed out, in terms of the consent that you suggested, there was no application for consent, so of course, we're not considering that at this committee at this time, so. Anyway, let's leave it there for now, and we'll carry on with this process. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, I guess there's no one further in members of the public. So again, committee, the staff's recommendation is to approve the minor variance. Can I have a motion to that effect? Member Strength and Member Watson? And Susan Fleming, would you please read that resolution?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that application number A12, 2025 GR for West be approved, and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared, conditional upon the applicable consent application for the subject property B01, 2025 GR is finalized. The provided relief shall apply to the parcel of land associated with consent application B01, 2025 GR.
Thank you. Committee, questions or comments on this application? Oh, push your button, Member Strength, for me. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to, I'm not sure who. How do we get here? How does a building get built and then we ask for consent? I don't understand how the process, I mean, I thought that you do surveys prior to building. I don't know how a building gets built and then there's a concession asked for. Mr. Clark? Matthew? I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So this is a unique situation. Of course, when a building permit's applied for, a site plan's provided showing the setback requirements of the building. It's intended that those requirements are met. Sometimes it ends up being the case where the foundation ends up being different than what's proposed, and that can be addressed through the building permit process or a planning process. You know, perhaps I could pull up one of the maps in this property because it is unique in the sense that when the building permit was applied for, you know, and right now even, this is all one parcel. You can see that there is the red area is the lot the committee conditionally approved in the February meeting, but this is all one parcel still, and it was at the time of the building permit application. The lot line locations are different now as one parcel than they would be if the severance is finalized in terms of where the front, the rear, and the side lot lines are. This is all based on how lot lines are defined in the zoning bylaw, but right now this is the front lot line, and this would be the rear lot line, and these would be the side lot lines. So right now, this lot line where relief is being requested, it would be a rear lot line if this consent is finalized based just on the change in the lot configuration, it being no longer a corner property with a different setback requirement than a side lot line. Technically, yes, their building footprint location changed, but right now it's a side lot line that requires a 6-meter setback. So if the consent wasn't finalized, that building still complies with zoning. This is to implement, this relief is necessary though for us to finalize the lot creation because as committee may recall, the building was intended to meet 30 meters. It didn't have to at the time, but it was intended to meet that in anticipation of a severance proposal. So when the survey came in to fulfill the conditions of the consent, then the building footprint had changed a little bit. Perhaps there was some logic in how it was oriented with the road. You know, it's difficult to plot out a foundation too without, at the time, there weren't lot lines or survey stakes drawn in. Now there are. So I mean, there could be a variety of factors that influence that. And I could direct any other information that the applicant might have about that. But that is kind of how we got here, is that this relief is needed for the rear lot line, which would only be formed on this lot line if this consent was finalized. So again, before we can finalize the consent, we need to recognize the relief because it's less than 30 meters from that newly created rear lot line. So it's a bit of a technicality in how the lot lines are defined on this property, being a corner lot, switching into non-corner lots, except for the ones that were approved down here, of course. I hope that provides some clarification.
So in fact, if I hear you correctly, that if this was not passed and the consent failed, or the conditions of the consent that was already passed weren't met, then that consent would go away and this would become one property and would actually be compliant, technically. Is that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, essentially so. With the current building footprint at that location, we need to recognize the relief to allow the consents to be finalized, which would permit the lot lines to be established and registered as separate lots. Otherwise, it would be the subject parcel that exists now and prior to conditional approval of the consents.
Right, and so the fact that the consent happens changes what we define the front setback and rear setback.
Yes, in this situation, it's a unique situation to corner lot properties because of how the front lot line's defined on them, because they abut two different roads. But if there is a change in the lot line orientation, then the existing development on a new lot still has to meet those setbacks. So yeah, it does result in this case in a change in where the rear lot line is located by the consent finalizing.
Okay. Okay, clear, and I think we've heard as well that the neighbor really doesn't object to the reduced setback in this case, so. Okay, anything further from the committee? And are there any recommendations or comments to bring to our attention as a result of these proceedings?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff would recommend that the committee approve the application with the recommended conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seeing nothing further, I'll call for the vote on this item. And that carries, thank you. And I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. Okay, our next Committee of Adjustment meeting is on Friday, July the 18th. As there's no further business, I will invite a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ungerman, and motion to adjourn. Member Strength. Thank you. And we'll call for the vote on the adjournment. Did everyone vote on that? Missing one? Did everyone vote on that? Everyone's going to vote on that. Mr. Ungerman? Oh, thank you. And that carries. Thank you very much. So I now declare this hearing to be adjourned at 10:16 a.m. Thank you.